Hey everyone, welcome to Dread No Mondays. I am here today with Jarrett Ingram. Jarrett, I appreciate you taking the time to be here and share your knowledge and experience, and looking forward to this conversation. Jarrett, if you wouldn't mind, just give a little
Absolutely.
bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Kenny. Excited to be here. We met, how long have we known each other? It's been 2 years yet?
About two
About,
years.
right? Been
Yeah,
about 2 years. Well, awesome. Yeah, I was excited to be on your podcast. I love the title and what you're accomplishing with Dread No Mondays. I think it's
thank you.
amazing. So, a little bit about me. I have been an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur my whole life. And I have taken some stints where I've taken some contracts internal with some businesses, on executive teams or kind of on a consulting or business development side. But I recently, well, in the last few years, it seems recent now, but founded a company called the Standpoint Company. And because my passions have to do with developing people and developing business, it seems like everything that has ever brought me any success or anything that I've ever been really excited about, at least on the professional side, has been in working with and developing people and then figuring out the ins and outs and developing business. And so the Standpoint Company helps business owners, entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs. I kind of went through that backwards. Generally, we start out as a solopreneur and then kind of an entrepreneur. We're putting the pieces together. We're getting really excited about what we're doing. And then we can actually be an owner of a business as opposed to just an owner of a job. And so the Standpoint Company helps people do that. And the reason we chose the name Standpoint is because I firmly believe that most of the problems we're all trying to solve are not actually the problems, right? I think that mostly the problems we're trying to solve are the symptoms of the underlying problem. And so, the problem is not the problem. The problem is what we think the problem is. And, one of the things that I say a lot is perception is what we see, but perspective is how we see what we see. So if you want to change what you see, you got to change your perspective. You got to change how you see what you see. And so that's what I help entrepreneurs and business owners do. I've worked with businesses and leadership teams for companies as large as $2 billion annually. I've worked with entrepreneurs just starting out, making their first $1,000, which was super exciting for them. But that's what we do. We help kind of challenge viewpoints and we jump in there and get people excited about business again. And so that's just kind of what we're passionate about. I don't know if I'm rambling, but it's just a little bit about me. I hope kind of my passion exudes through that. I can talk about this for days and days and days straight, probably.
So we won't call it rambling, we'll call it expressing your passion. No, I like that. Thank you for sharing that. That's a perfect example of what we're passionate about here at Dread No Mondays, is helping people get past that problem or see what the true underlying
Totally.
problem is and how to get past that. In your professional life or in your personal life, whether that's to standpoint or just in your personal life with family or whatever. How do you help, or well, first off, we'll start with what's like one of the most common problems or hiccups that you've seen people misidentify? You know,
Hmm.
you, you mentioned the problem is not really the problem, it's the underlying problem that's the real problem.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Love that. So, for instance, I'm working with a business right now. They are in the pipeline construction space. They're in like the waterworks space. And so crazy. First time I've ever been in that kind of industry. But you know what? Here's the thing is that companies and how they operate and guiding principles and people relationships, they end up being the same across all industries. So long story short, I'm working with this business. They're local, they're here in Utah, and so I'm in Utah right now. And they the general manager of the store, they have like a storefront where they supply pipeline, waterworks things, supplies to contractors. So I'm working with the general manager, and he says, Jarrett, I can't get I've got front of house people, like the front forward facing people, and then I've got warehouse people and delivery guys and drivers, and I can't get them to stop nitpicking each other. It's like everybody's trying to force everybody else to do the thing that they would do in their specific way, or that sometimes there's an initiative and a few hands need to touch this initiative, and I have people saying, well, that's not my job, that's your job, but the end result is that the thing doesn't really happen very smooth, and then after that, then these people are really not getting along. So I need you to get in there and help people get along. And I was like, okay, but what you think is the problem of people not getting along is not the problem. I was like, that is a symptom of the problem. They're like, what are you saying? Well, the problem is not the fact that people aren't getting along and that people aren't helping each other out and that people think that someone else is not working hard enough and this person is working too hard, and so they're not going to help do this and this. I was like, your problem is the fact that there's no clarity in the roles, right? You're mismanaging expectations, and you have no defined culture. Your culture, your internal culture has just kind of formed itself, but there's no guiding principles or core values or the way that we do things on purpose. And if you'll do that, if you will incorporate a specific culture, and you'll get really clear, create tons of clarity around roles, expectations, who does what, when they do what, how they work together, how they communicate, you won't have any of those things that you think are the problem. But if you just go in there and you try to make people be friends, and you just go try to make people be cordial to each other, you'll never actually solve the problem. Fascinating, right?
Love it. It's so true too.
Yeah, it's amazing. See, one of the things that I love about, as I shift over, I'm thinking about your podcast and the name of of your organization, of Dread No Mondays. And most of the time, when somebody dreads a Monday, that's not the problem. It's a symptom of what the problem is. There's a reason you dread the Monday, right? There's a reason we get the case of the Mondays. There's a reason that everybody posts on social media on Sunday night and they're like, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. Oh, I got to do this thing tomorrow. Did the weekend go by this fast? There's a reason why people post on Friday like, thank goodness it's Friday. I can get out of here. I'm so glad the weekend couldn't come fast enough. Or you get all the memes that literally start on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday that are like, is it Friday yet? On Wednesday became hump day, so it could remind everybody that they were halfway through the week. It's because for them, Monday sucked and they couldn't wait to finish Friday, right? But there's all sorts of reasons why that happens. And I think all those reasons are super fascinating. It's one of the reasons why I jump in with a business and with entrepreneurs and really get clear, because when they get clear, when they are excited about something, I can't wait for Monday, right? Like I have to, and maybe it's kind of my ADD, but I like on Sunday, I have to like force myself to relax and clear my brain and like not think about things, because the wheels are turning about the things I get to start doing on Monday.
It ends up being the opposite. Like, oh, it's Friday. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's very easy to get into that trap, especially if you surround yourself with others. It just starts with that one meme, and then all of a sudden people are jumping in with their memes and their memes and their memes, and
oh yeah.
So it's so easy. I do want to back up and take a side tangent real quick for a minute here. You mentioned on the business in the pipeline space, and it was your first time working with a business in this space. The thing that crossed my mind when you said that was, opportunities come where you might not expect them. whether that's a business opportunity or an opportunity to see things different or an opportunity to learn. It's always something that I've got to remind myself of. Is this an opportunity? Then don't just disregard it.
Yeah.
As a because
One
who
of the
knows?
one of the things that I'm thinking about is, when I think about opportunities in my life, they kind of happen like this. And I know that people on your podcast won't be able to see my hand gestures, but it kind of seems like they fly in from one side, right? And they float right in front of your eyes for just a second, right? Just a quick second. And
Mm-hmm.
then they're gone about as fast as they came in. Now I believe that there are times where you're strategically working hard and you're slowly building the bricks of this big plan and opportunity. But when I'm talking about is those opportunities that you need to like seize, that the new client to work with, the new job that you need to send your resume to, or the new business idea, the new, I don't know, the new thing that you need to develop in your business, the new podcast episode, the new whatever it is. Those kinds of opportunities, those ideas, those things that just come as a sense, or they come as somebody just, almost like magically appears in front of your eyes, like a new relationship, something like that. It seems like those opportunities, they fly in. You hardly saw them coming. You're like, oh wow, this thing just happened. It's the thing that you want to talk about and tell your spouse about. And you're like, I got to tell you what just happened today. They fly in and they pause for just a moment, just long enough for you to decide yes or yes. And if you take too long, if it's like, yes, maybe, should I, they're gone about as fast as or faster than they came in. And, everything that we do for the first time. Isn't that amazing? I was talking to a mentor of mine, and I had never broken into the tech space, the software and tech space. And there was a company reaching out to me, and they wanted me to join their people team, right? People is kind of like it's a new way to say HR, but nobody likes HR. They want people in charge of their people department. And this is, the department that deals with people development and leadership and promotions and hiring and onboarding and firing and discipline sometimes and policies. It's like the nicer way to say HR, And I'd never
Can
been in
I
the,
interrupt you real
yeah, go
quick
ahead.
on that one? I wanted
Yeah,
to bring up that point. Nobody likes HR. And again, it's what's the underlying reason? Why don't we like HR? What's the bad rap that it had? Why did it get
yeah,
that bad rap? It's all those different perspectives, and how we choose to look at it that help us approach it better. It should be that HR is our friend because they're here to
should
help
be.
us, is what they're
That's
supposed to
right.
be. But because of the way we look at it, or because that's what's so ingrained in society, or your mom talked about HR for so many years, and then when you finally get involved with a company and then dealing with HR, you're like,
Yeah,
this is what I've been hearing about for 20 years or whatever.
yeah,
So it's kind of a prime example of that perspective, that what's the underlying problem, what's the real cause why this happens or this doesn't happen.
totally.
Just one.
I'll get to that in one quick second. But, I was approached by this business to work with them and partner up with them. And a mentor of mine that I still have a really close relationship with, I was talking it over with him, and I was like, you know what? I've never done this before. And I don't know if I can do it. And he's like, what are you talking about? You've been working with entrepreneurs and business owners for over a decade now. He's like, every single thing that you do, you have to do the first time. The kids have to walk for the first time. They got to try to talk for the first time. Now it becomes natural. Anything that you do for the first time. So, it's a super fascinating way to look at it. So instead of looking at it from my vantage point of, oh no, a first time thing is scary, he helped me change my perspective. And then now a first time thing is normal. First time, we do everything for the first time. And then we keep going. Now, here's the thing about HR. And I get so fascinated by by HR and people departments. And the reason that people mostly don't like HR is because a lot of times HR is kind of taught to keep people in line, keep them working according to the work manual, the employee manual, the policies and procedures. And most of the time they're out, if they're not just trying to like hire new people, right? HR most of the time makes this massive mistake of trying to catch people doing things wrong. That's what they do. They start investigations on people and they try to catch people doing things wrong. So when somebody hears about, hey, so-and-so from HR wants to talk to you, it's like, oh. But if HR were to change, if the HR department were to change their culture a little bit, if they were in the business of helping, they were in the business of catching people doing things right, as opposed to we're in the business of catching people doing things wrong, then people would love HR, right? They wouldn't be afraid of HR. They'd be willing to go talk to HR and talk to, talk through problems and work with mentors and counselors, and depending on how big the HR department is. So it's just another fascinating way that it's all in perspective. The problem is never the problem. How you view the problem is always the problem.
Exactly. I love that. And to go along with that, if you were to take a look at yourself, make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to, then you have nothing to fear from HR, or no reason to hate them or just regard them or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's
So
all in perspective.
a lot of people, not to throw people under the bus, but human nature is to point fingers at someone else. And sometimes it's what little tweak do I need to make that can improve the situation, not only for everybody else but for myself too. So
Yeah.
and it trickles out to what's the word? Ripple effect in a pond.
Yeah. For sure, man.
Just a little tweak and perspective, like you were saying. So
awesome.
Excuse me. So what are some of the ways that, aside from perspective, how do you help them recognize that kind of on a personal level? Let's talk, without getting too into your personal, but like with your family or with your friends or your mentor, like with your mentor saying something, instead of going from, no way, you're wrong, I'll go find someone else, tell me what I want to hear. How did you change your perspective to, okay, maybe he's right, maybe I need to tweak that to make the situation better, to find that underlying problem?
Ooh,
Why I really hate Monday.
It's a good question, really good question. And in fact, I have a couple of answers in there. The first thing has to do with who you go to for that advice, who you go to for mentorship. And it works on both sides. This will apply to people who are in a position of leadership, in a position of maybe mentorship. I want you to think about this person right now. Think about this person who could call you right now. Maybe they could interrupt this podcast interview. They can call you right now and they could just rip into you. They could offer you, call it constructive criticism, leaning heavily on criticism, and just rip into you, okay? But you finish that conversation almost refreshed, like, you are so right. Oh man, all right, I'm gonna work on some things. Thanks for this phone call. You literally thank them for like tearing you open, right? And it can be a friend, a family member, a parent, an aunt, an uncle. But do you have somebody in your life that comes to mind when I describe that, who can just shoot it so straight and you're like, thanks for that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so why is it that we could take those kinds of criticisms or those kinds of advice or those kinds of challenges, right? We bring this idea to the table and that person is like, no way, that idea is not going to work. And we're like, thank you for that. You're so right. And then if we heard those same things from this person over here, we would be like super offended. We'd want to punch them in the face, right? We'd want to like, we would be unbelievably offended. Like, why does that happen? Why does that happen? Why is it that we'll hear one thing from this person, but we will be offended if we hear the same words from this person over here?
I think a lot of it's the relationship you have with that person.
Totally. It is. That it's a big question of leadership. It is something that I've been fascinated with my whole adult life. As I started my career, and I've been a part of all sorts of teams, and if you own a business, there's no business if you don't have clients, and there's no clients if you're not selling something. Clients could mean customers, they can mean whatever, right? So if you're not selling something, you have no business. So I always wondered, why is it that some people sell more and other people don't? What is that? And it boiled down to this level of influence. And so the question that you're asking, like, how was I able to take that kind of advice from somebody? The first thing is because that person is somebody who is influential in my life. And the reason that person is influential is because I trust them, right? I have a connection with them, and they bring value to my life. Those three pillars, trust, connection, and value, are the three main pillars of somebody who's going to be an influential leader. We go to leaders for advice, and we follow leaders who we trust, who we have a connection with. Connection just simply means the like factor. These are people we like, we enjoy their company, right? And people who bring value into our lives. Okay, that's kind of my first part to answer that question. So if we all have these people in our lives, I'm just adding verbiage to who that person is, right? So, but what it means is that if we want to be that person for somebody else, then we better be building up those pillars, of influence, of trust and value and connection. The other thing, though, that you asked is why would I take that kind of advice personally? It's so funny. You said it's kind of human nature earlier, that you also said it's kind of human nature to push blame on everybody else, and which is so fascinating, because when we do that, when we try to push blame everywhere else, the human side of that is, because if it's everybody else's fault, then that means it's not my fault, right?
Exactly.
And so momentarily it makes us feel a little better. But behind that, the psychology behind that leaves us stuck where we are, because the only person that I can change is who?
Yourself.
Me. So when we realize that nobody owes us anything, and that we have the ability to take responsibility for every single thing that happens in our own lives, everything that happens to me, I get to take ownership of it. I get to realize that I have choices, even if my choices are just, how am I going to respond in this situation, right? Even if somebody does an action that affects me, maybe I couldn't control their actions, or I'm not responsible per se for what they did, but I am responsible for how I respond and where I go from here. And there is nothing more empowering than that. So when I realized in my life that I was in charge of me, that I always had choices, that I was responsible for where I was and where I wanted to go, that it was nobody else's fault, that I was not the result of my circumstances, I wasn't the result of other people's choices, but that I could be the result of my choices. It became so freeing. It really was good news, because if you kick out the idea of fault, right? If you kick out that idea of, well, if it's everyone else's fault, then it's not my fault. If you kick that out altogether, it's not about fault. It's just about where you're going, right? And if I'm the only one that I can change, then it's really good news if I am the one impeding my own path, because I can change me. Can't change anybody else, but I can change me. So now when I hear a constructive criticism from somebody, first of all, I'm hearing it from somebody who is a mentor of mine. But second of all, what I'm hearing is, Jarrett, you have the ability to change this to better your life. So we have a choice there. We can either hear it as, Jarrett, you're not good enough. Your first idea wasn't good, which means you're stupid and you're a bad person and you're not great at this. And so you should just quit everything, right? We can choose that, or we can choose, oh, perfect. This person is a little further down the path than I am, and they're offering me this perspective. I'm not going to go make this same mistake maybe that they've made, right? Or now I have the ability to change this idea that wasn't a super good idea in the beginning.
I like that. That's so true. You know, it's as easy as, you know, just a simple choice. You know, and a lot of times we have to be careful if we choose the negative side to really blow it out of proportion or whatever. You know, they could say, hey, there's glass up ahead on the path you're walking. I'd recommend shoes. You
Yeah,
know, we could put it as, you know, there's sharp rocks and alligators and tornadoes and you know, blow it way out of proportion. Or we could just say, okay, he's giving us some a heads up on some precautions or some slight changes. You know, maybe we're in just
totally.
socks or whatever, and we need to put on some actual shoes. You know,
Yeah, I love that example, actually, because even little suggestions like that, yeah, it applies so well because the person who's not wearing shoes can hear, oh my gosh, Kenny told me to put on shoes because there's glass ahead. So I can hear, Kenny thinks I'm stupid. Kenny thinks I'm not good enough. Kenny thinks that my feet are weak and that I'm going to cut my feet on this glass. And so Kenny is a big jerk. Or I can hear, wow, Kenny really cares about me. Kenny cares about my feet and my safety. Kenny cares that I should put some shoes on so that I can get down this path, right? And this is just a story that applies all over. It applies in relationships. It applies in marriages. It applies with your kids. It applies at work and with your business and with a boss or with a team. It's awesome.
that is awesome. You know, it's the simple things. So awesome. This has been a great conversation. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on. Couple last questions. If people wanted to learn more about you, get a hold of you, you know, learn more about Standpoint, where could they find you? Where could they reach you at?
Awesome. Yeah. So they can reach me kind of everywhere on social media. So Jarrett Ingram, 2 R's, 2 T's. I also have a really cool Facebook group for business owners called the Standpoint Community for Business Owners. Facebook, Instagram, and then on my website, jarrettingram.com. I've got some free gifts if they can just simply put their email and then I'll send them a free gift. And those are kind of the best places to find me, connect with me.
Awesome. Thank you. And we'll put those links in the description as well with the podcast and the different platforms. So again, Jarrett, thank you again for taking the time. Thank you so much. It was huge, great knowledge, great perspective. You know, so we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, man. If I might add one thing, to tie it into Dread No Mondays. If I were to give my best tip about not dreading Mondays, I would say that the idea of dreading a Monday comes from a lack of purpose and a lack of just clarity around something you're passionate about. And if you can get really clear, if anybody can create tons of clarity around their purpose and whatever they're passionate about, nobody has to dread Mondays. Everybody can be excited about Mondays. They can wake up excited to do the new thing around this purpose, around this clarity that they're trying to get after. And it doesn't matter if they're an entrepreneur or if they have a job. And they can really take charge, take responsibility, and get after it.
Awesome. Thank you. And I want to add to that, something I've learned is, your occupation or whatever that is may not be your purpose. So let's say your Monday is your job. You hate your job. You could look at it and I hate my job. Or you could say this job or this career allows me to fulfill my purpose.
Totally. Oh my gosh. You know what? It it's magical because people see and think what they want to see and what they want to think. And so sometimes people think that they're stuck at a job. Here's what's magical. You don't have to work anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You get to do whatever it is that you want to do. If you hate your job so much, then go get a different job or go start a business or go do something that gives you more freedom. Isn't that amazing? When I'll say this, I've launched multiple businesses, and here's what's fascinating. I'm going to share this quick story actually. When in the beginning of March, I had 7, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 speaking engagements across the country booked through August. Okay, like through now, and I also had 4 major business client contracts. And the reality was that business was looking fantastic. But then what happened in mid-March? Everything shut down for COVID-19, right? My business, which was about speaking and gathering people and consulting these big businesses, all of that was shut down. So I had a choice to make. And it's a choice that so many of us had to make. I could either be so mad at everybody else. I could be mad at the government, mad at virus, mad at sickness, mad at whatever it was, that my business was literally sliced at the kneecaps. Okay. Things had to be canceled and postponed. Or what I did instead was I launched a business that had a current need, and we did $350,000 worth of business in 8 weeks right after it launched. And it is scaled. It's a 7-figure business now. And all because I had a choice to make. I could either be offended and I could be mad, and I could be mad at the world, and I could be depressed that somebody, something out there took my opportunity away. Or I could recognize that now there was a new opportunity, that sure, Jarrett, you weren't going to be speaking on stages, around the country. You weren't going to be working with these businesses because they now had to pivot, and because of this COVID-19. But here was this new opportunity that you could do. There was these new things that you could do. Isn't that awesome? It's all
That
perspective.
that is so awesome. Just having that mindset, that ability, and understanding that, like you said earlier, you have the choice. You may not be in control of what happens around you. You couldn't control those
Totally.
businesses out of state or whatever, but you controlled how you reacted to that and what you did moving forward.
Love it. It's so great. There's nothing more freeing and empowering than realizing that you have choice. And everything's a choice. What I think about, how I think about the thing I think about, why I think about the thing I think about, what do I say, how do I feel? Your feelings are a choice. You get to choose if you're going to be mad or upset or depressed. Now, I'm not talking about like mental illness, clinical depression, those kinds of things. I just mean you get to choose whether you're going to be angry or happy, whether you're going to be depressed or whether you're going to think positively. Those are all choices. You're going to choose when the stimulus like when a thing happens. It's like a stimulus. It's something that, even if it's something that you didn't want to happen, it doesn't mean that you automatically get angry. See, here's another empowering thing that changed my life, is when I realized that things don't make me mad. They also don't make me happy. Things can't make you frustrated. They can't make you anything. They can happen. That's all they can do, is they can happen. Then you can decide how, whatever that thing, when it happened, how you're going to respond to the thing that happened. Right? things don't make you mad. You choose to be mad because the thing happened. But you can also choose to not care that much. You can choose to refocus your attention. You can choose to stay happy anyways. Isn't that amazing?
It is, and when you learn that you can have those choices and be able to control those choices more, you'll realize that you
Boom.
have more opportunity, or you recognize more opportunity is out there. Like you were
It's
saying earlier,
like a magic trick.
you know, if you're so focused on being angry, you're not going to see these opportunities that are flying right by you.
No.
So no, awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. That was incredible.
Okay, you're awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you. And take care.
Okay, we'll talk soon. See ya.